Okay, so I hope you all can able to see my screen. All right, so if you are aware of the data, right? So nowadays data is everywhere. So we have a lot of demand for MSBI developers and the people who knows and works with SQL Server database or any related database, right? So why we have, because the data is growing everywhere. You take any business nowadays, so they all talk in data, right? So I have done this much sales, and last year this was the sales, and this year I have 10% growth. So it's all in numbers, and they're all talking about data, right? So without this data, so nowadays it's no business is without data, right? So they're all having reports, and they generate reports, and depending on the past historical information, so they will take they will decide on how to go in the future, right? So if you take any business, okay, I will just tell you like where these tools fit in. Okay, so we have three tools within MSBI. So one is called SSIS. So I will just, sorry, one second. So one is SSIS and SSRS and SSAS. So these three tools are from the, it's all part of MSBI. So SSIS stands for Integration Service. Okay. And SSRS stands for Reporting Service. Right. And SSAS stands for Analysis Service. Okay, so all these three tools are used for different purpose. So as we are talking about SSIS, so SSIS is basically used to integrate data and report. SSRS is used for reporting. So mainly you report data in graphical reports, and you can visualize using different visualizing mechanisms. And then finally we have analysis service. So where we use this analysis service for building data warehouse, or where you have huge amount of data, so it's difficult to generate reports using SSRS. So we use SSAS to build a data warehouse, and from there we generate reports. Okay, so let me take through an example. So just to quickly let you know like where these tools will be used. So if you take any business, okay, so let's take you are having a big business, and you have some distribution business, and you are distributing a lot of items through multiple vendors throughout the country. Okay, so let's say your vendors or your distributors are maintaining their sales information, right? So in different formats. Okay, so because you may be having thousands of resellers or vendors who are all maintaining their sales information in their own, whatever fits for them. So someone might be using Excel, and someone might be using a SQL Server database, and someone might be using Oracle, right? And someone might be using a CSV file or Notepad. Maybe he is not a big retailer or big vendor, so he is all managing his sales information in a Notepad or CSV, or even he may be writing somewhere, so that and it goes on like this. So you may be having many maybe thousands of retailers like this. Okay, so now the challenge is, so if you want to take some decision like what should be your sales for, because you are a distributor, right? A distributor or a manufacturer. So you are let's say you are manufacturing some medicine. Okay, and you have a lot of retailers and vendors. So you are all selling them, and they are selling in turn to their customers. And now you would like to know what is my sales for this month or last week. So based on that, so you are going to decide, how much sales, how much production I have to make for coming week or coming month, right? So how do you make that decision? So you should have the sales information ready in your hand so that you can judge, like this week I have made this sales and last week I have made this much sales, 10,000, and last week it was 9,000. So ideally, it should go maybe around 11,000, something like that, right? So, but for taking that kind of a decision, so you need to have all this sales information readily available, right? So if they are maintaining different format like Excel, SQL, Oracle, CSV, or different format, so it's difficult to if you ask them to send all these data, so they can send you through mail or some other means, so they can send you all this data. Okay, so if they send you all this data, but how you are going to consolidate all this information? If you have, or if you can able to consolidate all this information, so then only you can you can generate some kind of a report, right? So you can connect to, so let's say this is a, centralized database or data warehouse where you are uh, uh, consolidating all your data. So once you have this in this place, so you can easily generate a report, right? So you can connect to a reporting tool, right? And you can generate your sales information, like this is my sales for last week. So you can generate easily some bar graph, or based on the data what you have. So you can generate bar graph or whatever the report you want, you can build. So now the challenge is to integrate all this information. So even if they send all this information in CSV, Excel, and all, so you need some manual effort to integrate all of them, or consolidate everything, so that you can produce a single report, right? So which takes a lot of manual efforts. It may take weeks, or weeks of manual effort to consolidate all these 1,000 files from all these 1,000 vendors, right? So that's where we have this SSIS coming in. So this will help you to integrate all this information in a single place. Okay, so you can connect to any data source. So you can connect to Excel, you can connect to CSV file, you can connect to Oracle database, you can connect to SQL database, and again, so you can connect to source, and also you can connect to a destination. That is again, again it can be Excel, CSV, Oracle. So there is no limitation. So you can connect to source, any of the source. You can connect to any of the destination. So normally what we do is, so since this is on Microsoft product, so if you purchase SQL Server, so all these three tools are coming up free when you buy a SQL Server license, right? So that's why we bring this data into a SQL Server database. Okay, so once you have this data in SQL Server database, so it is very easy to generate any reports. Okay, so in SSIS we also have, it's also called as ETL. Okay, so it's also called as ETL, stands for extract, transpose, and load. Okay, the extract, transform, and load. Sorry. Okay, and once you have this data, so you can also do data cleansing, data manipulation, and you can map data from these fields, because you could be having multiple fields, right? So for one vendor may be maintaining first name and last name for a customer, and one vendor may be having first name, last name, and middle name, right? So one first name, last name, and one vendor may be having only name field. So here in your destination database, you may be having first name and last name. Okay, so you can map all these fields, from which data file, or from which data source, which what is the destination, which column should go to which column. So you can all map, and also if it is required, so you can also concatenate these first name and the last name and middle name, and also you can load that into the destination. So that's all the, those are all the mapping and manipulation you can do within SSIS. So that's a very great tool which will help you to integrate data from many source, and also you can load it into many destinations. Okay, so once you have this data available in a single source, so you can connect your a reporting tool and generate any graphical report or tabular report or matrix report. There are many kinds of reports available. So for this we use SSRS. Okay, SSRS stands for SQL Server Reporting Service. So you can connect to SQL Server database, you can connect to Oracle database, you can connect to many other databases, and once you connect to this, so you can generate many reports, and depending on what kind of requirements you have, you can generate all the reports. So now, so if you have observed any business, right? So this is what the main challenge they have: integration and reporting, right? So if you are owning a business, so you had main challenge here integrating the data, because many people are sending you this data, their sales information. Integration was a challenge, so we could able to do that with SSIS. And then I was looking for what is my sales for last month, last week. So could able to generate that using SSRS, right? So now what is the challenge? What is what is stopping? So if you take these two tools, this is sufficient, right? So why do I need SSAs? Any idea? Any idea what is why do we need SSAs? They are happy with these two tools. So even if you take 100 companies, so most of them maybe 100 companies, if at all they are using MSBI. So out of them, 70 to 80 companies, they are only using SSIS and SSRS. Only maybe 20 to 30 companies, they are going for SSAs. Do you know any, what could be the reason for this? Okay, let me tell you. So, SSAS is a tool which is mainly focused on building a data warehouse. Okay, so we take this data and we build a data warehouse. So it's also called as data warehouse, or we call it as a cube. Okay, so cube, and also dimensional database. So we call it with different database. So we build a cube. Okay, so so it's something like, it's a different database, and it's not the traditional database which we use normally here. Okay, so this is SQL Server traditional database, which is also called as relational database or OLTP. So it's also called as OLTP, and this is also called as OLAP. So OLTP stands for Online Transaction Processing. OLAP stands for Online Analysis Processing. Okay, so we use this data and we build a queue. Okay, so all data warehouse or dimensional database. Okay, but do you know what is the reason we go for this? Okay, so the main reason could be, if your data is very huge, so if your database or the transactions are happening in millions, and let's say you have sales information, and that sales information is sales table is having a number of records, maybe crossing 10 million or 100 million, maybe not even 10 million, maybe 50 million or 100 million. So then what happens is, if you're running any report, so it may take more time to generate your report. So if it is taking 1 or 2 minutes, so we will not have patience, right? So definitely people will look for some other products, or they will definitely ask for improvement in the report, because it's taking their time, and taking a lot of time to generate the report. So normally it should take 1 or 2 seconds, maximum 5-10 seconds. But if it is taking more than that, that's definitely not going to help any business. Okay, so if your data is very huge, so what it has to do, so if you are running some report, like let's say you are running, you have 10 or 20 years of sales information, and you are generating a report saying what is my sales for the last 10 years, by year, by month, and by vendors. Okay, so if you are generating that kind of a aggregated report, it has to go and read all your 100 million records here, right? So if you're reading 100 million records, and it's definitely going to take some time, right? And that's where this report will take more time. So it may take 1 or 2 minutes to generate that report, because everything is happening on the fly. So it is going and reading the data, and then it is calculating and returning you the report, right? So that is one of the scenario where people will go for SSAS. So if you have very huge data set, definitely there we have several mechanisms to improve the performance of these slowly running queries. So we have something called indexes. We have table partitioning, which is there already in SQL Server database, but still that is not going to help you when you have very huge amount of data. Okay, and also and you have, if you are running many aggregated reports, so it has to do all the calculations on the fly during the runtime, so it's gonna take some time. So that's where if you have a lot of records and if you are running a lot of aggregated reports, so it's going to take a lot of time. So that's where, and also if you want to do a lot of analytics on your data, let's say you want to do some kind of data mining, and you want to do some kind of you want to build some kind of machine learning or the artificial intelligence into your system to predict what is my sales for next month, or what my sales for after 2 months or next year. So if you want to build that kind of intelligence, so this traditional database or OLTP is not going to help you. So in that case, we go for data warehouse or OLAP database or dimensional database. Okay, so advantage of this database is, in a traditional database, so you have multiple tables, right? And it's all linked through relationship, foreign keys and primary keys, right? So, and if you are doing joining and all, so it take a lot of time to generate your reports. Whereas in OLAP here, it's going to generate a single cube, and all your data is going to be residing in a single cube, and all the dimensions and fact tables or fact data is all related here. And if you are running any report from here, and you can also connect your SSRS to the dimensional database and generate your reports. Okay, so you can generate sales information like bar graph and other things. Okay, and what is my sales for last 10 years uh, by vendors and by month. So it's going to take only fraction of second, maybe 1 or 2 seconds, and it will give you all your result set, whereas it was taking 1 to 2 minutes here. Okay, so here it's taking only 1 second. Okay, the reason is, all your data whatever we are having here, it's going to be processed and stored in cubes. Okay, so if you are running any aggregated reports like what is my sales for the last 10 years by month or by vendor, it's going to be pre-calculated before you actually run your report. So we have cells in the cube. So in these cells, all your data is going to be pre-calculated, and it's all connected to the respective dimensions and facts. And based on that, it's going to generate the reports very quickly. Okay, and you could ask me, how these aggregations are calculated pre-built. How do this cube know what kind of report I am going to generate? Okay, so it will calculate all combinations of aggregations based on what dimension you have. So, and it will calculate everything beforehand, and it is ready to be used. Okay, so that's why it is very fast, and it takes very less time to produce report. Okay, so that's where OLAP stands for. Okay, so here our main goal is to generate reports as quickly as possible, whereas in OLTP, so the main goal is to make the transaction faster. So that's where we don't much concentrate here on the reporting part. Okay, so that's why we have it. So the intention of these databases also is different, and that's why the structure and architecture, everything changes when we move to SSAS. So this is a different kind of database. Okay, so this is where we have SSAS. Okay, So not all the companies are using, but nowadays, as data is growing, so now more companies are adopting SSAS as well. So now you can see uh, if you have more data and if you want to do more analytics, so you have to go for SSAS. Okay, and one more advantage of MSBI is, like, there is huge demand for MSBI developers. The reason being, a lot of companies are adopting MSBI over other tools, and there is a lot of competition in the market, and MSBI is, the price is also very competitive compared to other technologies, other uh, platforms, and you also get these tools free when purchase SQL Server license. So that's why if you are thinking about small and medium companies, so they are mostly going for these MSBI tools, which is and also the tool is very user friendly uh, because of UI, and we can build business intelligence reports and ETL very easily using these UI tools. So that's why it's very famous and people are adopting more. Okay, so any questions here? So I just wanted to give you some broad understanding or high level view of what these tools are, and based on your, so that, I just wanted to make sure you know what these tools are for, and so that you can understand uh, what these tools and why these tools. Ganga,
No,
Ashish,
Gautam,
Prashant,
it's
Preeti.
okay, fine.
Okay, yeah. So Ashish, Prashant, Preeti, you have any questions? Okay, so we are going to cover most of the topics within this. So in SSIS, we are going to cover most of the um, tasks which are related to ETL, extract, transform, load. There are some administrative tasks which we are not going to cover, but most of the SSIS tasks which are used for ETL, so we are going to cover, and like connecting to SQL, connecting to CSV, Excel, and how we can automate the things. Like if you have 100 files, like how we can load all these 100 files using some kind of loop and other things. So we are going to learn all these things. Prashant, SQL we are not going to cover in detail, but during the when we are working with the projects and also through the demos, so we often have to connect to SQL Server database, and we use SQL queries to run there because we have to get the data from somewhere, right? So SQL Server database is the source which we use to connect to. So you can learn some basic SQL queries so during the process. Okay. Um, and also we will go through our SSRS with more details, like how we can generate reports, what kind of reports we can generate, how do we use visualization, and how do we deploy these reports onto report manager, and how can we subscribe to a report and automatically get these reports, um, and also we will go through drill down reports, and also uh, how to parameterize the report. So there are many parameter mechanisms we have, and all those things we are going to cover. And SSAS, so we will go through a complete project of how we build a cube from the scratch, and how we are going to generate the KPIs, how we are going to create data dimension usage, how we are going to create aggregations, and how we are going to tune the queries within SSAS, how we are going to use usage-based aggregations, and all these things we are going to cover. Okay. So there are many things to cover in all these tools. So please, be aware of what are all these covers. So I think you might have got the access to the topics which we are going to cover. So if you are not, so please let me know, so I can share with you. So any questions you have? Any other questions you would like to know other than this, whatever we covered today? So we cover cube processing as well. Yeah, MOLAP, everything. So MOLAP is the main which we are going to cover in SSAS, so it will be covered. You have guys Ashish, Prashant, Preeti, and Ganga, Ayush. Very good. Can you please elaborate MOLAP? Okay, so MOLAP stands for Multidimensional Online Analytical Processing. Okay, so MOLAP is, as I was telling you here, as I was explaining you, so we build this cube, right? So this cube building, we have different mechanisms for building this. So MOLAP is basically, it is multidimensional online analytical processing, and we also have ROLAP. Okay, so ROLAP, MOLAP, okay, and then we have uh, HOLAP. Okay, so what are these stands for? MOLAP is multidimensional, ROLAP is relational online analytical processing, HOLAP is hybrid analytical processing. So hybrid ROLAP is basically whatever you have data structure here, right? So you have this table relationship. So it will be maintained. This will be still be maintained when you move to the cube. Okay, so it will not process your data as is. So it is going to be stored as is, and I was talking about aggregations, right? So those aggregations are not going to be pre-calculated when you use ROLAP. Okay, so normally when we go for data warehousing or queue, so ROLAP is not that much recommended, because the whole purpose of using data warehouse is to improve the reporting performance, right? If you use ROLAP, it won't help you much, but your data, whenever you have this is a different database and this is a different database, right? So there is always a lag between this and this. Like if you have done some transaction today here, it will take some time to reflect here because it needs to be processed. Okay, so normally most of the businesses will have 24 hours or 6 hours or 12 hours of latency. So if the transaction has done today, so it will take some time, 3 to 6 hours, to reflect in your queue, because it has to be processed, and because I told you, right, so most of the things will be processed and pre-calculated. So for that we need some time. So that is what MOLAP. Okay, so if you are using MOLAP, so there is always a latency between your OLTP database or the main source of the database and your cube database. Okay, so that's where the MOLAP comes in. So if you want to have some kind of real-time reports, so then people suggest ROLAP, but you won't get that much advantage. But your reports will be quicker. I mean, there will not be any lag between your main database and your dimensional database. Okay, that's what the ROLAP and this MOLAP, the difference. And hybrid is for some of the tables, if you are having a granular table, so those tables will be using ROLAP, and your aggregations table. So we also build some aggregation table within your cube. So those aggregations will be in using MOLAP, and your the most granular data will be in ROLAP. Okay, so that's where this hybrid comes in. So it uses both in combination. Okay, I hope it's clear for you. Will you provide presentation and worksheets? Yes, presentation. So we will go through some of the slides. So I can share it with you if you want. And worksheets, I don't know what do you mean by worksheets. So we will go through the sample database, and we will work through that database, and we will go through the data sets, and yeah. So the whatever the projects we build during the, yeah, assignment. Okay, yeah. whatever the projects we are going to build in our session. So I will share with you, and along with that, so I can give you some assignments, so that you can practice, and you can learn something new from the assignment based on your learn. So any other questions, guys? Right. So okay, thanks Prashant, thanks Ashish for all your questions. I appreciate. So do we have any other questions? I'm just looking at the message box, chat box. Okay. All right. I think we don't have any more questions. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining this demo session. I hope you have enjoyed this session. So we'll
Yeah,
meet
thank you
again.
for
Yeah. Thank you.